at our Wednesday night Oasis service. Oasis is a place where we can meet midweek to come together as a community to be spiritually refreshed. Most Wednesday night services are built on the theme of the previous Sunday, and we share science of mind principles and practices with the intention that these gatherings be informal and intimate and interactive. Our annual theme for 2025 is Rising Higher, Growing Deeper, and we are continuing that theme with our monthly theme for April, Fertilizing Our Future. Last Sunday, Andy Robbins, religious science practitioner emeritus, introduced ideas inspired by this week's theme, Embracing the Power of Regenerativity. And tonight, our speaker will continue the exploration of that same theme. If you're new to our community or watching this recording for the first time, please visit our website at oaklandcsl.org. If you click on the I'm New icon and look at the lower left-hand corner, you can submit your email address, and then you'll begin receiving our newsletter, The Village News, once a week in your email. It has all the information on what's happening here at our center in the coming weeks. Before we get started with the talk, please mute your microphone. When you mute your microphone, it will improve the quality of our recording and tonight's transmission. And you can leave your camera on if you like. And please stay tuned through the end of the service to hear several important announcements. Our speaker tonight is Reverend Aikya Param. Reverend Aikya serves as a staff minister at Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. She earned a master's degree in women's spirituality from New College of California in San Francisco and a certificate in spiritual leadership from Holmes Institute of Consciousness Studies in Golden, Colorado. She creates visual art with fountain pen and watercolor and writes articles and poems. She led a prison ministry for 20 years. She's a member of Bay Area Independent Publishers, and you can find her poetry book, Near Me, published in 2024 in the OCSL bookstore. A book of essays comes out in 2025. Her articles and poems are available in her publication, Emergence, on Substack. So thank you in advance for being our speaker tonight, Reverend Aikya. And I'm going to turn it over to you because we always start with prayer, but you are actually also doing our prayer tonight, the opening prayer. So I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for that nice introduction, Reverend Alley. And I'm going to use a prayer that I learned when I was beginning in religious science. And we used to say it every single week at East Bay Church. So it may be familiar, therefore, to some of you, and I think we have it on a slide, so you can all read along. God is the only power in my life. Nothing from without can touch the perfect life of God within me. No past experience has power over me. I am a perfect child of God, and nothing that anyone has ever done or said can interfere with my divine inheritance. The power of God is greater than any circumstance in my life. The strength of God is mine to use. Turning away from all feelings of inadequacy, I discover that all that I need is within me right now. As I forgive the past, I find that I have nothing to atone for and nothing to run away from. Casting off the old me, I discover my true self. I take dominion in my life. Old habits have no power over me. Conditions have no power over me. Personalities have no power over me. I take dominion. I am whole. I am free. I am complete, now and forevermore. And so it is. Thank you very much, Freddie, for sharing that with everybody. And that prayer was in a little tiny book called All Needs Met. Um, and it is supposed to be the prayer for someone recovering from alcoholism, but I really think it fits for everything. So let me get started with this interesting topic that we have, the power of regenerativity. And regenerativity means the ability of something to be renewed, restored, or grown again, especially after some kind of injury. So in biology, it's the capacity of an organism to regrow tissues or limbs. And in ecology, it's ecosystem restoration. That's something we hear about a lot after the fires that we have pretty often here in California. There also are regenerative cultures, and those are social systems that prioritize renewal, healing, and positive transformation. They are healthy, resilient, and adaptable. And then there even is regenerative agriculture, and that's by the cycle of planting. The idea is to renew and restore soil health so that it isn't depleted. So this regenerativity, each of us probably has experienced this in our lives. I know I have in that when I was born, I was very, very ill. My mother had German measles in the first 3 months of her pregnancy with me. And so she was aware that there might be problems when I was born. And I arrived, it was very tiny. It was just barely 5 pounds, which in those days was considered premature weight. And but my mother had prayed and had seen healing take place in her own family. And so she decided that she was going to find the best care that she could find out about and put it into practice and pray. And she was a good Catholic, and she prayed to Saint Anne. And for those of you who don't know, Saint Anne was Jesus' grandmother, and she's the patron of mothers who have these kind of challenging situations. So she prayed to Saint Anne. And by the time I was 7 years old, I was normal in size, little short for my age, I'll tell the truth. I still am, right? But anyway, I'm a little short for my age. But everything was working. I was able to read. In fact, I learned how to read before I went to first grade. So that to me is and I always forget about this, that this is part of my life story. And it's definitely a regenerative story. I mean, I think of it this way, that God creates everything whole, perfect, and complete. And so that healing that I experienced in the first 7 years of my life was a type of return to the whole, perfect, and complete. At least the ability to be that way. So anyway, I just thinking about what we can notice, what kind of regeneration do we see all around us now? So trees, we talked about trees in our noontime Dr. Dan class for the last couple of days. And trees are a great example of this regeneration. Every single year, they go through a cycle that we can appreciate. Right now, you can see the leaves growing larger on the trees around you. And a lot of trees for the past several months and now have been flowering. Jacaranda tree, the redbud, the magnolia. Magnolias are kind of over now. And then fruit trees. Some of them have already bloomed, and some of them are coming forth now. And the wonderful thing about the flowering trees is it's kind of like a promise, especially with the fruit trees. We know we're going to get something yummy after a while as that fruit the flower grows into a fruit. And I think of another one. A lot of people don't know this, but you know, redwoods are very tall and they have very shallow roots. And if they tip over too far, they could fall. And so they have this amazing capacity to grow another tree up from those shallow roots to support the big tree so that it doesn't fall. And to me, that's a kind of regeneration. Anyway, that wonderful ability. If you go for walks in Redwood Park, you could see examples of that. You can see the little tree, the daughter tree, growing up from the root to support the bigger tree. Snow is a really serious problem for trees, for redwoods, because makes them heavy on the top and then they tip over more. So on the rare occasions when there is snow where there are redwoods, you'll see that happen. A little tree will grow up from the shallow roots. So I always like to look also in the Bible to see what kind of thing is in the Bible. Now, often we read about Jesus healing the man born blind and opening the ears and the ability to speak in someone who was deaf. But I was wondering, is there ever a story where he restores someone? And indeed, of course, there is. And I happen to choose the version from Luke's Gospel, the fourth chapter of Luke's Gospel. Jesus had just been teaching in the synagogue in Capernaum, and he went to visit Simon's house, Simon Peter. And everyone told him about Simon Peter's mother-in-law, actually, was very, very sick. She had a fever, and she had a high fever, and they spoke to Jesus about her, and he went in and stood at her bedside and ordered the fever to leave her. The fever left her, and she got up at once and began to wait on them. Now, hope that's not offending to anyone who really thinks that women should do more than just wait on the men, but that was her life. And so she was restored to the fullness of her life, and she was able to um, be a welcoming hostess to Jesus and the disciples who were with him. That same story is in Matthew and also in Mark. It's a little bit different. In Matthew, he touches her hand and the fever leaves her. And in Mark, he took her by the hand and helped her up. So that restoring someone to the fullness of their lives when they had when they had lost that capacity. Um, so then the third one, now we're looking at what's going on in our own literature. So the word regenerate is actually in the glossary to Science of Mind with a little uh, brief definition. And then it's also in the New Thought Dictionary where they say quite a bit more. Regeneration is a renewal, and this one, I really like this one, a new birth on a higher level. So you're starting over again on a higher level, whatever that means to you. Maybe more optimistic, more spiritual, but you're starting over again, a new birth on a higher level. It also means the transmutation. Isn't that a cool word? The changing from disease into health. Transmutation of disease into health. So if anyone has had a serious illness and recovered, or if you know someone in your family or friends who suffered from a severe illness, but then completely recovered, they had a regeneration experience. So, or it can be any form of limitation that becomes less limited. So that's a little less, dramatic perhaps. But as we get a sense of ourselves and confidence And knowing that spirit within us is inspiring and empowering us to do better, we move from less to a less limited situation. Now, psychologically, it means the changing of thought patterns from a basis of confusion to one of harmony with and adjustment to life. That's psychological regeneration. And then from a spiritual viewpoint, it means the second birth, the spiritual transmutation. There's that word again. Ooh, I like that word. Spiritual transmutation or purification, whereby lower qualities are elevated to spiritual perception. What does spiritual perception mean to you? There's a thing to think about. So I wanted to give all of you an opportunity to say something about regeneration in your own life or in the lives of your family or friends. Does anybody, I'm just opening this up now, if you want to let us see you, and tell, do you know or have you had an experience of regeneration in your own life
And
or the life of your family?
when you've had a few seconds to think about it, if you want to say something, just use your react button if you can, or if not, wave and we'll look for you.
We'll find you. I think this
I
might
can
be.
share.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Marilyn Flower. I'm Aikya's roommate, in case anybody doesn't know that. Thank you for this topic, and I'm assuming that a story of healing is appropriate here.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in about 1983, shortly after I got married, I discovered a lump on my neck, and I got it biopsied, and it turned out I had Hodgkin's disease, which because I didn't know very much about it, and because I used to work as a nurse's aide in a hospital and somebody had a very advanced case of it and didn't make it, I was really scared. And um, my surgeon, of all people, because I was going to have staging surgery, when I kind of had a little meltdown in his office, and he said, you know, and this was way before I was introduced to metaphysics. He said, and this was in the mid 80s, so it was in the height of the AIDS epidemic. And he said, I've seen and treated a lot of young men with AIDS. And he said, the ones who believed it was a death sentence curled up like a fetus in their bed and didn't make it. The ones who decided to thrive, they, went about living their lives, in spite of their diagnosis, and they thrived. So if you believe you're going to live, you'll live, and the opposite. So right then I said, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to choose life. I happened to have 26 radiation treatments and a staging surgery. The surgery was just diagnostic, but so the therapy was radiation treatments to my upper quadrant. So I got zapped 26 times. Um, but I went into full remission, and that was back in the 80s, and I am still here.
Yay. Thank you very much for sharing that. I forgot it, and it's a fabulous story.
It
Wow.
reminds me that one of my favorite things when I first got to Science of Mind from Unity was Ernest Holmes' thing about how principle is not bound by precedent. The idea that the moment you change your mind, things can begin to change and will. And there's that Emerson quote too about the moment you commit or make a decision, the universe starts rearranging itself. You know.
But that was before Marilyn knew all that cool stuff. She just did it and then learned about it afterwards. Yeah.
Sometimes the best way to learn things.
Yeah, no, if it had been handed to me in a spiritual magazine, I probably wasn't ready for it.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you were facing serious stuff, so it was time to get real with it. And that's great. And I, honest to goodness, I didn't pay her for that. Though it was a perfect example. Anybody else have one they would like to share? So I have another question. And you can go right back to answering that one if you come up with something. Um, is there something that brought you joy in the past that you could bring back into your life with benefit today?
Hmm.
You know, sometimes this regeneration can also mean just remembering what brought you joy and doing it again. You know, we forget. We get so into the everyday repetitiveness and, you know, and then the news is enough to really get you discouraged. So I know I've actually gotten really interested in listening to the stories about the Pope, just so I don't have to listen to stories about what the latest thing is that our government is doing. Oh my. And
Freddie got his hand up.
Yeah, hello. I'll
hello.
try to see if I can spotlight myself since I don't have my camera on here. I can turn myself on. I'll spotlight. Um, Hello, everyone. So for me, I'm an illustrator, but I haven't been drawing a lot in the last few years as I've been working more on music and trying to further myself in the music sphere here in the Bay Area. But recently I've taken on a drawing commission and I've kind of forgotten how much I enjoy it and how much I'm able to go into myself and how introspective it is and how much I'm able to connect with different parts of myself than I do with music and DJing. So that's bringing a lot of joy back into my life, and it's bringing a lot of joy into other people's lives. The drawing that I'm working on is an 8 portrait commission for an old family friend. Like back when I was a kid, they lived across the street and they're still in touch with my mom, and their daughter is now in college. And I'm like, girl, I remember when you were 6 years old. So long story short, but it's all for our family friends, parents, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, and it's for his mom, who, you know, she hasn't seen pictures of her family for a long time, and some of which have passed. But having them all together in one photo, you know, when he first saw it, he was like, oh my gosh, she's going to love it. So just knowing that my little impact can have such a big impact on others just means a lot. So yeah, I'm bringing more joy and drawing back into my life. Thank you.
Totally wonderful. I used to do portraits. I haven't done them in a while. Maybe I'll do some. Oh, I think I thought of that later. I thought, who would you draw? So anyway, you're giving me ideas. Anybody else with something that brought joy? That's one of the ways that the divine in you can uplift others. Yeah. Anybody think of an example of that, which wouldn't have to be where you really were inspired to do something and it wound up really having a wonderful positive impact on others, on somebody else, or maybe just on yourself?
Judith. I mean, I always want to call you Reverend. Dr. Judith.
Oh,
There's a reason for that, I'm sure. Oh, you're mute, sweetie.
unmute yourself. Please
Am I still unmuted? Okay.
Oh, you're unmuted now.
Okay. Um, well, what I'm hoping is that I'm not going to let what's going on outside continue to get in the way in some way. when things began to happening on the outside, and I thought, well, what can I do here? Because I wasn't, I'm not someone that likes to rant, and I wouldn't want to yell and holler, about what was going on. And I said, well, I could try writing a song, because I haven't done that in years. And so I've written a couple, and I'm finding it's a little hard to keep at it and not to focus on other things. For instance, focusing on my family and things that are going on there, and friends who are not well, things like that. So I have to honor it. What I'm looking for is a way to honor it and to begin and to keep writing some songs. Some of them will be good. Some of them will be, anyway, it'll be different. But the thing is that it will feed me. It will feed my heart. And also I'm wishing I could find a way to be in a choir again, because I just loved that when we had a choir. And I haven't thought of how I could do that in some fashion. But music, that's it. My thing is all about more music than just about anything. And I'm open to some guidance from spirit as to how I can move forward with that. Because it does bring me, when I'm doing anything like that, even if I'm walking around my house singing, I know hundreds of songs from through my life. I kind of remember them, and they're all different kinds of songs, and I walk around singing, and that's just in that small way. That's just for me, and the joy is there every single time. I can count on it. Yeah. So that's it. It's all about music, and I'm open to guidance as to how to move forward with that and take time. I was thinking about that. I said, well, I got to do this or I got to do that, and I've got this other thing. I think I need to just make it be that there has to be that space of time every day in some fashion, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because
probably the only way it'll happen, huh? I know you said something about you were singing as you were walking outside, and
yeah.
people are funny. Somebody didn't know why you were doing that.
Oh yes, they thought there's something was wrong with me. It was
Yeah.
someone that I knew.
Oh no. On top of
Yeah,
that, they
yeah.
should know better. Anyway.
Well, I will tell you one funny thing is years ago with my daughter Leah and Joan's son Adam, we were going to Tahoe or Truckee or something, and so we were walking. They I was walking with them through the train and going to the car. We go get treats and things like that. I just was singing train songs, but I got to tell you that as I sang, they gradually backed off.
Oh
My
dear.
daughter and Adam is kind of like a son, and it's like they kind of back, looking up at the ceiling, pretending
Oh no.
for sure that they were not with me. But that's not
Too
generally.
bad. I love a good train song.
In my family, we have two singers. My son and I walk around the house singing, and my daughter walks around going, "Stop that."
Oh,
Oh,
Oh my
hey,
I can't
goodness.
sing or hum when she's around. She can't deal with it.
saying that.
Oh, no.
Anyway, yes. Anyway, I'm complete. I'm gonna rambling too much now, so I'm
No, I
complete.
enjoy it. I enjoyed your story. Can anybody think of something that brought joy to someone else that needed uplift? And how could you do that again?
Hmm.
As you can see, I'm on some.
I have a story that might fit that.
Okay, go ahead, Marilyn.
This is an Easter story. It's a true story. It happened at the Home of Truth where I go to church. Um, and I think this was the first, we reopened after COVID, I think it was 2022, on Easter Sunday. But we had met before and dyed a bunch of eggs, and I had the lucky, fun task of hiding them in our courtyard and garden. And we advertise it in the neighborhood. So we have kids that come to the Easter egg hunt that don't go to, their families don't go to church, but that's fine. So we had, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 kids show up, and they collected the eggs, and it didn't take long. They found them all. And,
Oh,
and they were showing off the eggs and looking at them and comparing how many they got. And we made sure that everybody got some, and we evened out the buckets. And then we were about to invite everybody to come in and have potluck with us. And long about that time, a Chinese American man and his little 3-year-old son, Benji, show up, and they say, "Is it over already?"
Oh,
And
oh,
then us adults are sitting there looking at each other like, "Quick, what do we do now?" And he's got his little basket and his big old eyes. And one of the kids kind of sneaks around behind him so that Benji can't see him, and he takes an egg out of his basket and hides it so it's just popping out a little bit, bright color out of a plant in the garden right within reach. And then he taps Benji on the shoulder and he goes, "Benji, look over there. What is that?" And Benji turns around and the guy goes, "That's your egg. You can have it." And so he goes over and he reaches for it and he picks it up and he looks at it and he's like grinning from ear to ear. He's really excited. And the boy says, "That's your egg, Benji. Put it in your basket." He puts it in his basket and he's so excited. Well, this was contagious. So a little girl, she wanted to get in on the fun. So she took an egg out of her basket and hid it uh, kind of in plain view.
oh,
"Benji, look over there, look over there." And he looked and he saw another egg, and he's not used to seeing eggs growing out of trees. And they said, "That's your egg, go get it." And he got it, he held it like he had 2 of them now. It was abundant. And he put it in his basket. And one by one, all those other kids had to go hide an egg and point it out to Benji. And he ended
oh,
up probably with most of the eggs in his basket. And it was so fun to see how happy it was. But it was such an amazing experience to watch these kids without being prompted, without being told, "No, you have to share with your brother." They
right.
spontaneously wanted to share with him, watch his face light up, and one by one, they all had to get in the action.
Nice.
that's a
Wow,
sweet
that's
story.
a
Thank
great
you.
story.
Mm.
Honest, I didn't pay my roommate, but she does come up with some pretty good stories. Oh, how are we doing? Anybody else with a thought about anything that they would like to share with our community? Freya?
Hi. Um, when I thought about that last question, I was making notes on the first two questions. And but
Mm,
the last question is my husband, who I we got married when he was age 50. His first marriage was at age 50 to me. And that's got to be counted as a gift somewhere somehow to him.
yes.
But now last year, we're both turning 75 this year, and he has had this dream since he was 25 to go live in Mexico. So I last summer I said, let's go to Mexico. And he didn't want to go. But we went, and he hasn't come back yet.
He
So
really was.
my gift to him is I'm kind of watching. He has a business still here,
Mm.
and I'm kind of watching the business, and I'm letting him play down there, and he's having the best time of his entire life because this town in Mexico, there are more expats like from Canada and the United States, living in Ajijic and Chapala than anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Wow.
So he is making more friends. He's had more friends in the past 6 months. He's learning how to make friends, and which I need still to learn. But he's just he's on this little kid learning curve,
Uh,
and it's turned out to be good for me too, because I tell people we're individuating. and all the spiritual principles I've learned at CSL and all that, I don't have anybody. I know someone cares about me, but I don't have to deal with them. So I am just spending all my time, you know, growing and letting the little child, like the 2-year-old that kind of got quiet way back 70 plus years ago, is finally beginning to blossom. And it's like this miracle. Anyway, so a gift to him has turned out to be a gift to myself at the same
Wow, that's a wonderful story.
Yeah,
time.
wonderful.
Worked
yeah.
for everyone. Anybody else want to tell us something? That is wonderful.
I just thought of a similar experience I had, I guess, when my kids left to go to college. That sort of process of remembering and pulling back all the parts of yourself. I call them the parts that fell off the truck along the way. Going
Okay.
going back and picking them up again and bringing them back and go, "Oh, yeah, I used to love this." And having time to do those things again, that was, like, really fun.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes, indeed.
mm.
So does anybody have something that they would like to happen in the future?
Oh.
I saw Reverend Ju I mean, I did again. I saw Judith's hand go up just before you asked the question.
Okay, Judith, go ahead and say whatever you wanted to say.
Well, this was actually a gift to me from my oldest brother, who was he released his life a couple of years ago, and we're out walking in New Mexico. This, I guess his kids were there, and which it was gorgeous. I'm not familiar with that kind of scenery and stuff, and growing up in Connecticut is so opposite of that. So we were walking, and he was sort of leading. He had a big walking stick, and he turned around and he stopped and he just smiled at me and he said, "Can you feel it, Jude? Can you just feel it? The place, the energy of it, the beauty of it." And even though he's gone, sometimes I'm out. If I go for a walk in the park, if I'm around trees that I particularly like, I can hear his voice. Can you just feel it? And I am so, then I say, "Yeah, Harv, thank you." Okay, I'm complete with that.
Thank you.
Dorothy has her hand up.
I I I was just thinking about all of it that took place, but I have a biracial granddaughter. Her mom's family, they're Irish, and of course we're African American. She's a teenager, and my son and my daughter have a half brother who is also married to a white Caucasian person who is Croatian, and they have a son. And they moved here to Walnut Creek, and their son went to school in Orinda, and they were talking about the name Mendez. And one of the guys said, "Do you know O'Reilly Mendez?" And now my granddaughter Riley goes to school in Los Gatos, okay? And he said, yeah. And he said, did you know she's the president of the Black Student Union in Los Gatos High School? And
Wow.
comes, Nick comes to us at a family gathering. He said, oh, I just found out that Riley is head of the Black Student Union. And we were like, she never said a word that she was president of the Black Student Union in Los Gatos. And we were like, you know, my prayers have always been protective of her being a biracial kid, not know, you know, she's in Los Gatos with all these rich people and all this stuff, you know. And we were just in awe. And we can't wait to see her when she graduates. She graduates next month. She'll be coming up here. Her father told me the other day because it's prom day and she needs money for a brand new prom dress, of course. But she's going to come up. He plays in this club volleyball, and they were in Utah, but the Black Student Union wanted to honor her and give her a scholarship, but she would be in Utah if they won, so she wouldn't be able to accept the scholarship. So we are this side of the family, and I used to laugh because she used to say we were the brown people, and so when she was younger, and with her unfortunately, both her grandparents passed within a year, and we were all great friends and great support for Riley as she was growing up through Montessori school and grammar school and all of that. But we can't wait to see her to say congratulations. And that's the joy that I can't wait to share, you know. And we were just like, she never said a word. She's 15 years old. She never said a word.
Wow.
And I'm complete. Thank you.
Great, great story. Deborah, we haven't heard a word from you. Would you like to share a little something? Or just say hi?
Thank you. I had a I was leading a class earlier this this evening, and I just got off and I wanted to make sure I showed up.
Oh,
And so I
thank you.
am just in awe and debriefing and calming down and glad to be here.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Well, I'm glad you're here too.
Yeah.
I
Thank
just
you.
saw you and said, oh, wait, Deborah's here.
I am.
You're regenerating.
Yes,
Yes,
you're regenerating. Exactly.
absolutely.
Coming back to yourself. Okay.
Coming back to ourselves. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let me see. We have a few more minutes. If anybody has any other wonderful things that they would like to share, examples of regeneration or healing.
Well, just going along with the idea of regenerating and going back to things that you that give you heart before, just reminds me of one of the things that I have on my wall, which appears in a lot of other Science of Mind things, which is be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.
Yes, that's
And that this seems to fit that concept of regenerating seems to fit into that. Yeah.
And the idea that that is always changing.
No, and that, yes.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I want to say something.
Higher and deeper.
See Marilyn's hand.
Marilyn, what would you like to tell us?
I think this was from Brother Tay, but I'm not sure. But I think it was him or somebody was talking about being working, or I don't know, being like a chaplain or something in a children's hospital where there were a lot of injured children, and they were dealing with changes in their body with, you know, limbs affected and things like that, disability, what we would label as disabilities perhaps. And they had uh, chameleons or lizards or something. And I don't know if they purposely changed their bodies, but the idea was that in the little terrarium, these amphibians would be regenerating
Right.
a missing limb or
Oh,
tail, and every day the kids could watch the little tail or the little limb get longer and stronger bit by bit every day. And apparently that it was, if nothing else, a distraction, but more than, but it proved to be more than that, where it really was an adjunct to their healing process and to helping them reframe in their mind that the kind of healing they were looking for was impossible. You know, like if this little lizard could grow a new leg, then I can strengthen my leg and learn to walk again or something like that. I don't know the particulars. Somebody may remember that more accurately than I did, but it totally fits with regeneration.
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you. That was a good
Mm.
story.
She paid me $10 to say that.
Ah,
Did not.
that was a good, that was a good concluding story.
Thank you. It was a good
About
story.
time she paid you, Marilyn, for your
I know.
what a
Too much.
blessing.
Too much, too much. So we're almost to the place where we could move into the
Yeah.
announcements and the wonderfulness.
All right. So let's give Reverend Aikya some love that were inspiring all the conversation that we've had.
Thank you so much.
Oh, there we
Mm.
go. All right.
Oh,
And let me move now into our announcements. So we have a few tonight. This Sunday, May 4th, Judith Roberts, religious science practitioner, will be speaking on Confidence Unleashed, the Art of Self-Advocacy. Meditation starts at 10, followed by the service at 10:30. On Wednesday, May 7th, next week's Oasis, join Brother Ishmael Tete live and in person at OCSL for a special midweek Oasis. A love offering is requested. This event will be live streamed, but it will start early. So we're doing a 5:30 meditation and a service from 6 to 7:30 p.m. with a book signing after. Please join the Ministry of Prayer for our Friday night prayer happy hour on May 2nd from 7 to 8 p.m. on Zoom. It will be weekly on Fridays, except for the fourth Friday of the month. Practitioners Maureen French and Megan Lemon extend this open invitation to anchor in prayer with your spiritual community. Please visit oaklandcsl.org/events and click on the image and use the passcode 123456, just like you did tonight. Connect with others in oneness on the Worldwide Labyrinth Day to celebrate world peace and the Labyrinth experience. Join Eliza Young, religious science practitioner, on Saturday, May 3rd in our sanctuary. Visit worldwidelabyrinthday.org to learn more. The Social Justice Ministry presents a viewing of the movie The Color of Fear and a live discussion afterwards with Lee Manoir, the director. That'll be Sunday, May 4th from 1 to 4 p.m. in the sanctuary. The love offering is $10 to $30 and register at oaklandcsl.org/events. May is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which is observed in the United States during the month of May and recognizes the contributions and influence of those Americans to the history, culture, and achievements of the United States. Mark your calendars for a quick start class on Science of Mind Saturday, May 17th from 9:30 to 1:30 p.m. 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. This class is a requirement for the next new member cohort in early June, and it could also serve as a refresher for some and provide an introduction to Science of Mind principles for newcomers. Registration will be available soon. Our nonprofit partner for May and June is Be a Mentor, a nonprofit that seeks to help children and youth from challenging and vulnerable circumstances to develop the assets necessary to make healthy life choices, act with determination, and build vibrant, successful lives for themselves through direct contact and relationships with caring and positive adult role models. Visit their website at beamentor.org for more information. And you can join our class, Peace of Mind Planning for an Elegant Exit. The class starts April 22nd through May 13th on Zoom. Create an advanced directive that goes beyond medical wishes and also addresses personal, emotional, and spiritual needs. The cost is $125, and OCSL will receive $30 of your registration fee. Visit the oaklandcsl.org events page to register. We have a new save the date for the Lisa Ferraro and Tammy Hall concert, now planned for Friday evening, June 27th. This is an Oakland CSL 80th anniversary and summer solstice concert, with more information to follow. And yes, it is part of our happy 80th anniversary for Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, happening this year. Our Spirit Treasure bookstore in May celebrates Asian American and Pacific Islander Month and Mother's Day. Be sure to check out the 30% off table. And on your screen, you can see the individuals you may want to contact concerning any needs you have at OCSL. Please visit our website at oaklandcsl.org, and if you haven't already, sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Village News. While you're on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, please be sure to like and subscribe to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. And now it's time to transition to our conscious giving time. Conscious giving is a celebration, an expression of gratitude, and a spiritual practice. In giving, we celebrate our community and express gratitude for all the folks who give of their time, talent, and treasure to sustain it. We also acknowledge our place in the flow of universal power and abundance, and we put our intentions for a greater experience of abundance into action. In that spirit, please follow along as I read the giving affirmation, and if your microphone is muted, please feel free to say it with me. I freely give what I have, and divine source multiplies it in return. So there are many ways to give. If you go to our our webpage and click on the donate button, it'll bring you to a page where you can see all the different ways to give by cash, check, Zelle, money order, QR code. If you can think of any other ways, feel free to suggest them. And they're all there for you. So now we'd like to show our appreciation for those who have made tonight's service possible. Our speaker, Reverend Aikya Param, who also did our opening and will do our closing prayer. Tonight's tech host, Freddie Lambright, who made it all work. Our administrative coordinator working in the background to prepare our slides, and everyone who participated just by showing up and speaking their mind. So now it's time for me to transition to Reverend Aikya, who will be doing the closing prayer.
And I also would like to thank Dorothy Mendez, who did the meditation. Thank you. This is a prayer I think I experienced at Agape, but I'm not really quite sure. I live my life for a divine purpose. I was given a precious gift by God, and I am an indispensable element for peace on this planet. I center myself in the oneness of spirit and allow its healing energy to enter my soul. At the deepest level of my being, I feel Spirit's energy traveling through all parts of my body. It cleanses me and brings me into wholeness. Light illuminates me at the cellular level, balances me and frees me to express my unique presence. I am lifted up. All blocks and burdens dissolve. I am lifted up. All blocks and burdens dissolve. Worries and fears disappear. I am alive in the presence of the sacred all. And please join me by saying, and so it is.
And so it is.
And
Amen.
feel free to turn on your cameras if you'd like to see each other and wave goodbye. And